I mean, I've actually wanted to write this book for 20 years. I first pitched it to an editor in 1997. And not this book exactly, but, a Vietnam era book. And my editor very wisely said, you aren't really old enough and you aren't really ready. And frankly, nobody wants to read about Vietnam anyway. So why don't you, put this on the back burner and think about it for a while, which is what I did. And I think the reason that this book and this era was so important to me was I was a child during the Vietnam War, elementary school and junior high. And it cast a huge shadow across, my childhood. My best friend at the time, her father was an Air Force pilot who served in Vietnam and was shot down. And at that time, we wore these silver prisoner of war bracelets. So I got my first one, I think got his when I was 11. And it had his name and the date that he was shot down on it. And the idea was that you would wear these bracelets in remembrance of the servicemen until he came home. Right. And so I wore this bracelet for decades. He never came home. And so his story and his name was sort of always in my consciousness as I was growing up. And then later on, of course, I saw how the Vietnam vets were treated when they came home. And because a lot of them were my friends' fathers, that really impacted me deeply. And so I kept wanting to write about this era. And then in March of 2020, I live in Seattle and we were on lockdown, of course. And I was watching the news, as we all were, all the time. And I was seeing the division, the chaos, the anger. I was seeing things happening in America that felt very much like the Vietnam era again. And I was also seeing our doctors and our nurses who were on the front line of this pandemic sacrificing so much for us. And often I thought not getting the support and the recognition and the gratitude that they deserved. And somehow at that moment, it all came together to me. And I thought, I'm going to write about, the forgotten nurses who served in Vietnam. And I thought it was time for this subject to sort of be back in conversation again.
If you like this clip and you want to watch another, click here. If you want to watch the whole episode, click here.